I bring in my friend, the Doug Gottlieb. Got a show on Fox Sports Radio right after our show. All sorts of stuff to talk about. I'm so disillusioned with the Celtics. But let's start with the big game of the night, the main event, not the undercard. Let's start with the Warriors and Houston. And I think we both would admit Steph Curry somewhat revolutionized basketball. We don't have back-to-the-basket centers. It's fascinating. He really matters in the history of the sport. There are those of people, I think you're one of those, that you kind of tend to believe that he maybe not, what separates him from the MJ and the Kobes, maybe he's not perfectly built for the postseason?
Correct. Like, look, what people will do is they'll troll me on the internet and say, well, when Steph Curry came out, you didn't think he would be better than, Ricky Rubio, so you're hating on him now.
Right.
Like, no, the guy's a two-time MVP, the first ever unanimous MVP. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
And what he's revolutionized is what used to be seen as bad shots because they were such low percentage shots, he suddenly makes at a clip where guys used to make only when they're wide open. He shoots going right, he shoots going left, catch and shoot.
Everything.
I mean, he's ridiculous.
Yes.
Ridiculous. But it was helped, much like James Harden and LeBron James have been helped by the change in the officiating as well as the change in the style.
Yeah.
The officiating change went from regular season to postseason hurts him. It just does, just like it hurts James Harden.
Yes.
And on my radio show yesterday, I compared it to Peyton Manning. Remember, Peyton Manning is statistically the most dominant regular season quarterback we have ever seen. Ever. Okay? He's one game above 500 as a postseason quarterback.
Right.
And why is that? Is he a choker? Like, no, I think it's because in the playoffs, the New England Patriots, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Super Bowl are allowed to be a lot more physical, and that would throw off their timing routes. Same thing with Steph Curry. They make him guard more, they game plan more, gang up on him, and they're far more physical against him. And some of the and ones that he gets in the regular season he didn't get last night, the bumping and the banging, the hanging on him, and the grappling, that wears him down. And it's one of the reasons that you can look at the last 5 years. And how many times? Well, Steph's still hurt. Steph, the 73-win season when they lost in the finals, Steph's worn down. He's worn down by the 70. Then it was his ankle. We're like always trying to or it's harder in the playoffs.
Yes.
A guy that's slightly built that they engage him defensively every time, and they're super hyper physical with him when he's on offense every possession.
Yeah, I don't see this as anything drastic. I believe this is true with a lot of athletes. That the postseason tends to be in all sports. Hockey, they swallow the whistles.
Yes.
So a physical hockey player that can take more of a beating, Mark Messier, is maybe built for the postseason.
I can't believe I have no idea if
But
Mark Messier was physical
well,
or not.
he was a badass. He was a tough guy.
No, I know he won with the Rangers.
But I mean,
that's about all. And then he was on Gretzky's Oilers. But I have no idea if he was a physical player. I'm going to go okay, but I have no idea.
But there are guys that are built regular post. I don't think it's a crazy thought by you. Now I will say this, and you included Harden in this. This morning I wake up. If I'm Golden State and I'm like, Clay was awful. Iggy was terrible. Our bench isn't good. It was awful. Steph disappeared. We shot 24% on threes.
And still had one wide open look to tie the game. And by the way, James Harden missed a free throw that could have iced the game. Nobody seems to mention. I thought P.J. Tucker was amazing last night, by the way. And all the tip outs he doesn't get credit for. And the physicality defensively, setting the tone. And look, the Rockets are annoying. We don't like you. No one likes you. And for good reason. This is not we don't like the city of Houston. We don't care enough about the city of Houston not like it. We don't like ISO ball and the over dribbling. We don't like the flopping. They're a little bit like, this is what it's like to play against a European basketball team, where they're the ones that's actually a little bit dirty and with the cheap shots, and yet they're acting like they're always getting fouled. I'm like, with me? No.
You played over there.
Right. Like Chris Paul, who I used to love, has suddenly become that guy. You're like, oh. And they got Austin Rivers. Like, Austin Rivers is so unlikable, his own dad traded him. Who does that? Right? So, and then, they shoot so many threes. They complain about every call. On the other hand, last night, I thought they won that game because they were the tougher team.
I agree.
And Draymond pointed it out. And in spite of all that, as you point out, Steph's percentage was low. They had a wide open three from their best player at the top of the key, and he missed it. And then Steph got a pretty good look as well. They could have tied it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I sat there for 3.5 hours, and I felt like, and this is not saying the officials, sometimes the officials I went to a boxing match Saturday. Sometimes they'll let clutching and grabbing. Sometimes they won't. Advantage, disadvantage. And Tyson liked to get in there and grab. If a ref didn't allow it, Tyson wasn't the same fighter. Last night, the ref said, we're going to let you muck it up. You can bang on KD. The refs let a little more physical play, and it benefited Houston.
Yeah. I mean, look, the free throws are even. There's this weird stretch in the third quarter where there's 4 fouls called a row on the Rockets, to even it out in terms of the numbers. But generally, yes, on the offensive boards, it's no holds barred. There's no pushing in the back. It's whoever wants it more.
Yeah.
PJ Tucker just wanted it more.
Yeah.
Both teams played small ball. And as you point out, the difference in 1 and 2 is Iguodala. Livingston missed a wide open layup last night. If they don't get contributions from those guys, then all of a sudden it becomes, you better hope that Klay starts making shots. Look, I still think that Golden State, it controls their own destiny, has a great shot to win this series.
Yes.
But you're one turned ankle away. You're one awful shooting day from Kevin Durant away from getting run out of the playoffs and ending this run.
Don't remember this. Michael Jordan, the last team he couldn't get through was Detroit. Detroit had Isaiah.
That's who this team is.
Yes.
That's who.
Houston is Detroit.
Houston Rockets are Detroit.
Yes.
Right?
And they beat the Bulls for a lot of years.
They did. And they were physical, and they had one guy who could get them buckets at the end of a shot clock in Isaiah Thomas. They had another guy like an Eric Gordon in a Joe Dumars.
Yep.
And then they were just physical and tougher, and they pushed around MJ. They challenged him, knocked him on the floor every time he drove, which is exactly that's really kind of the game plan of how you're playing against the Golden State Warriors.
Generally, there's a lot of stats, and I don't want to be analytics guy, but there's a lot of efficiency numbers, winning percentage, assist ratio. They just drop when Kyrie's on the floor with Boston. And we know that basketball is a team sport, and there are some superstars that are unbelievable isolation players. Kobe could be one of the best of all time. Kevin Durant's the ultimate get-a-bucket guy, but the Warriors have a losing record on his best nights. What do you make of Kyrie? Where do you go from here if you're Boston?
I think you have to. I heard today on our former network, Jalen Rose say, hey, this used to be a pace and space team. When, Jalen? When? It was never a pace and space team. That just didn't happen. Okay? Isaiah Thomas used to do the exact same thing that Kyrie is doing, which is end of the shot clock, go off a ball screen, get a mismatch, and go. And you know what they're struggling with? There's just not mismatches against Milwaukee.
Right.
Hey, newsflash, Milwaukee was the best defensive team in the NBA in the regular season, and they're the best defensive team in the NBA in the postseason.
I want to throw this at you. I told the guys this morning, I said, if the Celtics were playing the Sixers now, good matchup. If they're playing the Raptors, better matchup. Are we over-dramatizing last night simply because Milwaukee's a terrible matchup for Boston?
Not just that, but the East is completely different than last year.
Right.
People want to say, well, it's the Sixers. The Sixers added Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, and however flawed Ben Simmons' game is and however sick Joel Embiid is, they're a year older, they're a year better.
True.
Right? The Milwaukee Bucks have put a better roster around Giannis, and he's gotten better as well.
Yeah.
They're a far better team, far more refined team, and a better coach team as Bud has had more time to integrate his system.
Milwaukee's a better team this year.
Well, Toronto Raptors are a better team they were last year. And, by the way, the Celtics didn't have to play Toronto last year. They only had to play Boston, who didn't have Kyrie Irving and limped their way into Boston. And the game went 7 games. Look, you can tell me that these Celtics are great. They're not. The Celtics won the trade for Markelle Fultz.
Yeah.
But Jason Tatum is not a superstar that everybody wants him to be. Not yet, and maybe not ever. He's a really, really good player. Yeah. He's in his second year in the NBA. He's in his third year out of high school. And he's just a good player who has flaws.
Yeah.
Do I think Kyrie's playing great? No. I think he does have a tendency to be selfish. He does have a tendency to pout. He doesn't get back defensively at times when he doesn't get what he wants on the offensive end.
Yeah.
But he's far and away your best player, and I think the surrounding talent with the Celtics is overrated. I think Brad, as much of a genius and a friend of mine as he is, I think he's had a tough time relating to this team and the social kind of inner workings with them.
Yeah.
And I think the Milwaukee Bucks are really freaking good, that the regular season showed us what they could be, and they've played that exact same way here in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I knew this morning coming in, I thought, don't ignore the reality is Milwaukee makes Boston earn every bucket. It's hard. They're deep. They have a great bench. Giannis is a rim protector. They've got other bigs. Listen, Milwaukee, I thought this morning, if Boston just ends up a 3, not a 4 seed, and you look at them and they don't have to face Milwaukee, we think this whole Kyrie thing is fine. Then if they lose to Milwaukee in the East, we're like, well, Milwaukee's great. Maybe we should acknowledge sooner Milwaukee's great. Now, I want to go to something yesterday I said that and people freak out about stuff, but I've been pretty good. I bailed on Westbrook before everybody else. I bailed on Melo, Derrick Rose, Blake Griffin. I know Kawhi is great. I think he's the best, second best guy in the league at go get a bucket. KD's the best. Just go get a bucket. Kobe Bryant was the best ever.
James Harden's in that conversation.
Yeah,
okay. But then both of them and Giannis play the other end of the floor where Harden's not.
No, Kawhi's a great defensive player. I'm not denying that Kawhi is great. You can make an argument he's the second best player in the world.
A little bit.
But Toronto was 17-5 without him. He does not pass. His usage rate, Greg Popovich acknowledged, my advice to him is when I call a play for you, I'm calling it for the team. He doesn't communicate. He's not tied in a string. And there's times with Kawhi I'm like, yes, he's great, but does he make people better?
Yes.
Does he?
This is a team that
3 assists.
Look, again, if we're going to go by stats, if you're going to do the Nick Wright thing where you fall on stats, then Russell Westbrook is the greatest NBA player we've ever seen.
I don't want to hear that.
No, I'm just saying no player since Oscar Robertson has ever averaged a triple-double in the entire season. Yeah. He's done it 3 consecutive years. Nobody's ever done that. Yeah. So if we're going to go by stats, then he's the greatest ever. And if we go and do stats even in the playoffs now, we're like, wow, all these guys are putting up historic statistical numbers. Why? Because of usage, and there's no big guys, there's no power forwards. It's a different sport.
No hand check.
Look, he plays both ends. He's embarrassed Ben Simmons in the series by guarding him and guarding him smartly, not letting him get to the cup. Yeah. He can match up with any of 5 positions defensively, and he has improved as a three-point shooter like nothing we've seen. He can score in the post. Yeah. Is he a shot creator? No.
Well, he's not a playmaker.
No, but that's not what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to go win his games. And he went winning games. Like, he's awesome. They're better because they said, DeMar DeRozan, you're really, really good, but you can't make threes, and there's a limit to who you can guard defensively. Let's go get a better player. That's why they were willing to get rid of DeMar DeRozan, who's an all-star, to get a superstar. Kawhi Leonard is a superstar. Is he verbal enough? Not with you and me. He's not entertaining enough. But you know what? He's verbal enough to win the NBA Finals MVP. Hell, let's just be honest. They should have beaten the Miami Heat twice if they make a free throw, right? If Ray Allen doesn't make the corner 3, we're talking 2 Spurs championships, and he's at least the Finals MVP for one of them, maybe 2 of them.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.